Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar on how to kickstart your job search, brought to you by Fish for Jobs and the Daily Mirror. Before we get started, just want to check everyone can hear me okay. You can do this by typing something into the Ask the Question button below, just to let me know something like, yes, I can hear you fine. Okay, seems like most of you can hear me. That's great. For those of you who do have any technical issues logging in or hearing me, there is a live tech event support button below. So click on that and they'll be able to help you. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the resources tab below, where you're going to find a wealth of careers advice, CV templates, tips. I'll also reference it throughout the webinar, but if you want to have a play around with that and see what we've got and download for free. Okay, so I'm Charlotte, Head of Marketing for Fish for Jobs, and I'm going to just talk to you for about 20 minutes or so about the key steps in your job hunt. I mean, we know that job hunting is a job in itself. We've got limited time today, so we're just going to focus on the key elements to really help you kickstart your job hunt. There is more careers advice available on fishforjobs.co.uk/careers-advice as well. Okay, so first step, career goals. Where do you start? So some of you will know exactly what you want to do, and that's great. But for most people, whether you're just starting out in your career, returning to work, or looking to switch careers, you're probably wondering, what job should I go for? So a good place to start is to consider three things you can see on screen. So what jobs are you qualified for? What's your skills and experience? What jobs do you want? What do you enjoy doing? And then what jobs are available on the market? And you can see that red circle in the middle. That is the sweet spot that we're aiming for. A good way to sort of see what's out there is to do the first, what jobs are qualified for, what jobs you want, and then have a search online at Fish for Jobs by keywords and just see actually in your location how many jobs are coming up. That should give you a good view of the job market. Okay, so once you've decided the types of jobs you want to go for, how do you go about targeting the right jobs? So obviously, at Fish for Jobs, we hope that you're going to use job sites like Fish for Jobs, but we always do recommend a multi-channel approach. So in addition to job sites, you've got your newspapers, your national and your local newspapers, you've got local career fairs, you've got social media, LinkedIn, probably being the main one, you've got networking and word of mouth, you've got going to employer websites directly, and of course you've got your recruitment agencies. And make sure you get the latest jobs first. So one great way of kind of avoiding having to go to job sites every day and running the same searches is to set up jobs by email. You simply put in the location, keywords or job titles and salary expectations for the jobs you want, and then every day when new jobs get loaded onto the site, you get sent an email alerting you to them. So it's a great way to get the jobs first and beat the competition. And then how about this hidden job market that we sometimes hear about? So there's a rather scary graphic on the screen there. It's estimated that 70% of jobs are not advertised. Instead, employers, they might just advertise them internally, so you'd never see them. They might use their own networks or word of mouth, or they'll use recruitment agencies to source candidates. Okay, we can't help you with those first two, but we can help you get your CV in front of the right recruiters. So there's thousands of recruitment agencies across the UK. So how do you make sure you're connecting with the right ones? So rather than going to all the different recruitment agencies, it's far easier to put yourself out there on sites like Fish for Jobs and let the right recruiters come to you. So recruitment agencies use CV databases like the Fish for Jobs CV database to source candidates. So when you upload your CV to Fish for Jobs, make sure you tick the Make Visible or Publish box. And then make sure you use the right keywords that get found. So recruiters search the CV database in the same way that we search for things on Google. They use keywords. So look at the jobs you're applying for, look at the keywords they have in there, make sure they're in your CV. I'm not talking about just sort of spamming your CV full of keywords, but just make sure they're in there in the right places. And keep your CV fresh. Recruiters want to contact active job seekers. They don't want to be phoning around and people saying, actually, I'm no longer looking for a job. So they might select the option to only search for CVs that have been updated in the last month, last week, or maybe even the last 24 hours. So keep updating your CV and uploading it. If you decide that you no longer want to look for a job for whatever reason, you can always make your CV non-visible or non-searchable on any job site. That means it's still in the CV database, but it can't be found. That means when you start job hunting again, you can just quickly go in and make it visible again. Okay, so that moves us on to your CV. Your CV is the most important document of your entire career, but how do you sell yourself on 2 pages of A4? It's estimated that the average recruiter spends less than 30 seconds viewing your CV. So how do you make sure that your CV ends up in the shortlist? There's a wealth of advice on CVs out there. What we've done is pull together a list of the top do's and don'ts based on feedback from our recruiters and employers. Also got some CV tips and templates in the resources section below. Okay, so starting off with the top don't for your CV. The number one complaint of employers and recruiters consistently is poor spelling and grammar, so typos. We are blind to our own mistakes, especially if you've been reworking your CV many times, so get someone else to check it to make sure it's error-proof. Do keep your CV to 2 pages. There are a few exceptions to this, but generally speaking, there's no reason why it should be longer than 2 pages. We often get asked what's the perfect layout. Well, there is no perfect layout, but generally speaking, make it easy to scan read, use headers and bolden when necessary. Have a nice chronological flow, i.e. start with the most recent, so start with present and work back. So your most recent job, your most recent education. If in doubt where to put something in your CV, in general, lead with the best stuff first. So if it's something really relevant to the job you're applying for, maybe put it in your personal profile or high up on the CV, definitely on the first page. Don't use fancy formatting. So a real-life example of someone who's a big fan of pink and unicorns. You don't want to stand out for the wrong reason. Unless you're going for a super creative role, graphic design or something like that, white paper, black ink, and a professional font size 11, normally works. Do have CVs for different roles and industries. I know this seems like a lot of work, but if you're applying for different roles or different industries, you need to emphasize different things. And it really is just tweaking your personal profile and maybe, a bit about your jobs, emphasizing different skills and experience. Don't make it hard for recruiters to see why you're the right person for the job. You need to present it to them easily. You might know why you're relevant, that you've got relevant skills and experience at the bottom of page 2, but the chances are they'll never make it that far, so make it easy for them. Don't include too much personal data. So there's a list of things you don't need to include on your CV: date of birth, age, marital status, children, and so on. If you are filling out an application form, they might ask for this information, but generally speaking in your CV, it's not necessary unless they ask for it. Photos. I know in parts of Europe it's quite common practice to include your photo, but in the UK it's not necessary, unless perhaps you're applying for a job as an actor or a model or something like that. Do include relevant hobbies and interests. So I've lost count of the amount of times I get CVs, and at the bottom of page 2 it's hobbies, and it's, enjoys reading, going to the cinema, walks in the countryside, which are all very nice, but unless you're applying for a job in one of those industries, are not relevant. If you're going to include hobbies and interests, include ones that demonstrate particular skills relevant to the job you're applying for. So if you're going for a job that needs leadership, mention that you're a captain of a school hockey team. If you're going for a job that involves public speaking and presentations, yes, mention your drama club or any role that demonstrates that. Okay, and then don't just say it, prove it. There's so much competition out there that you need to stand out from the crowd, and you need to be able to back up what you say on your CV. So if you're saying that you've got great customer service skills, mention that you're awarded Customer Service Advisor of the Month. If you say you're great at selling, show how you exceeded or hit your targets. And finally, do personalize your personal profile, as the name would suggest. Now, what's your personal profile? This is a paragraph that normally sits at the top of your CV. Sometimes it's called career objective, introduction, something like that. This really is your sales pitch and consists of 3 sections. It's a summary of who you are, education and work history, your skills and achievements, and what job you want, your career aim. And tips here really are to avoid cliches, things like hardworking, good timekeeping, punctual, and keep it concise. A paragraph is fine, and tailor it to the role you're applying for. So before, when I mentioned having different versions of your CVs, this is really the bit you need to tailor. So we've got a resource for you to download as well, which is about how you write a profile that packs a punch. Okay, so that's it for the CV do's and don'ts. Moving on to cover letters. Again, we often get asked, cover letters, should I bother? Often this is an email that you send with your CV attached, or it could be when you apply for a job on a job site, there's a space to put in a cover letter. The simple answer is yes, you should, because majority of candidates don't include cover letters or very brief cover letters. So if you do, it really sets you apart for the right reason. Some top tips for a great cover letter: keep it short, structured, and snappy. Tailor it to each job you apply for. Back it up with relevant examples. Your cover letter is also your chance to bring your reader up to speed on your current situation. So are you returning to work after a career break? Are you looking to switch industries? Are you about to get made redundant? As with the CV, make sure you proofread it or get someone to proofread it so it's error-free. And sounds really obvious, but remember to include your address, telephone number, and email so it's easy for them to contact you. So again, we've got some resources for you to download and some templates and cover letters. So once you've done that fantastic CV and cover letter, hopefully you'll start to get interviews. So now it's time to sell yourself face-to-face. So we've pulled together a list of the most common interview mistakes based on feedback from our recruiters and employers. And number 1 is poor body language. So it's estimated that 70% of communication is nonverbal. We all have physical quirks that we're unaware of. So make sure you practice with someone who'll give you honest feedback, because it's a really easy thing to fix. It could be lack of eye contact. It could be fiddling with the hands. It could be kicking your foot, something like that. The second most common interview mistake is failing to do your homework. So make sure you research the company, go on their website, find out, look at their recent press releases. Make sure you know the job inside out. So looking at the job advert or specification, and make sure you know your CV inside and out. Do stay positive throughout. There's going to be a couple of tricky questions in there. Interviews are hard. That doesn't mean, it's complete failure. So if you answer the question badly, that's fine, move on, and you can still salvage the rest of the interview. Make sure you dress the part. It sounds really obvious, but sometimes people do get let down by this. If you're going for an office job, then, a nice, simple, smart suit. If you're going for something more creative, then maybe you can go a bit more casual. But just, think about the type of job you're going for. If in doubt, go a bit smarter than you think you need to be. And then finally, lack of confidence. I mean, most of us do not enjoy doing interviews and are not naturals at it. But just, try to stay upbeat and enthusiastic. It can go a long way. So again, we've got a bit more detail on this in the resources section below. And common interview questions. So we've pulled together a list of the 5 questions that will be in there, will be in your interview in some shape or form. I mean, you can never predict what you're going to get asked, but these 5 questions will be in there somewhere. So the first one, tell me about yourself. This is a really horrible question, and the sort of risk of you starting to ramble and go off on a tangent on this one is quite huge. So make sure you practice one in advance. So it could be, they could ask you, can you give me a summary of your work experience? They could say, so why are you here today, or why are you looking to leave your current job? So make sure you nail this question. Keep it concise and clear. And remember, you have got the rest of the interview to go into more detail. Secondly, why should we hire you? Again, they might not ask you that directly, but it'll be in there. You need to show why your skills and experience make you the best candidate for this job. What are your weaknesses? It's quite an old-fashioned question, and sometimes they do still ask it in this way. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? If they don't ask you directly, it probably will be in there, or they might pick up on some a weakness in your CV, a particular skill or experience that you don't have that is needed for the job. So make sure you've got these areas covered. If it's something that you don't have, you might be honest about it, but say you're really keen to learn more. You might want to bring in stuff you've done outside of work, stuff you've done at school or university, which is relevant. Why do you want this job? Again, hopefully they will ask you this directly, but if not, it will be in there somewhere. And if they don't, make sure you tell them why you want the job. Enthusiasm for the job, for the company is really, really important. If you had two identical candidates in terms of skills and experience, but one was more enthusiastic, every time they're going to go for the enthusiastic candidate. And then can you give me an example of when it's a bit of a trick question because we can't guarantee what they're going to ask you, but if you look at the job advert or specification, it will be in there. Make sure you have examples to back up every skill, experience that they're looking for. So again, another resource to download below on common interview questions. So moving on to social media, how can you use social media to your advantage? Or before you can start using social media to your advantage in your job search, you need to do what I call cleaning up your act. It's estimated that 80% of employers Google candidates before interviewing or hiring them. So if you haven't already, Google yourself and see what comes up. Do the search results for your name that position you as the ideal employee. If they don't, if there's stuff on there that you wouldn't want a potential employee or current employer to see, delete it, make it private, get rid of it. Make sure you keep good company as well. Do you have people out there who are tagging you in photos and in posts that you wouldn't want employers to see? And make sure you use professional names, particularly for your email address. You might want to set up a new email address just for your job hunt. And, generally speaking, sticking with your name, first name and surname, or as close as, is a good rule. And once you've cleaned up your social media profile, you might want to set up Google Alerts to monitor it. So Google Alerts are simply emails that you get sent every time your name appears online. So you get sent an email with a link to where it is. So then you can make sure that you, if it's not something you want an employer to see, that you get rid of it. So you really don't want to be like this poor chap in the photo. So once you've cleaned up your profile, how do you start using social media in your job hunt? Well, there's probably two main ways. You've got LinkedIn and you've got a blog. So LinkedIn is basically your personal profile, and you can use it to build up a valuable network of business contacts. So recruiters often use LinkedIn to search for candidates, so make sure your details deliver. You think of your LinkedIn profile as your online CV and pack it full of skills, qualifications, and experience. And remember to include the keywords potential employers may be searching on. And make sure you get recommended. So ask current, former colleagues, bosses, people who've worked for you to recommend you on LinkedIn. If you work in particular industries, you might want to build an online platform or a blog for yourself. So just to create a buzz around your name and to really position you as an expert in your field. So most blogs are simple and free to use. And once you're up and running, build that loyal following and try to catch the eyes of potential employers by linking your posts to Twitter and LinkedIn. And then finally, staying upbeat. It can take a while to get a new job, particularly if you're looking for a very specific role or small search area. So if you feel like you're putting in a lot of effort but not getting the results, it can become, it'd be easy to become disheartened. So how do you break the downward spiral and stay positive in your job hunt? Well, the main way really is to be objective, which can be hard given something as emotive as your job hunt. First stage really is to try to identify where it's not working for you. So you do this by getting feedback. If you're not getting interviews, is there something on your CV that doesn't position you correctly? It's not selling yourself. So get someone to review your CV, maybe someone who works in the industry you're trying to get into. If you're getting to interview stage but you're not getting offers, is there something about your interview technique? So again, practicing with someone. or trying to get feedback from the employer or recruiter for the roles you've interviewed for. If you've gone through that phase and there's nothing glaring in your CV or interview technique, is it a skills gap? Are you applying for jobs but maybe you don't have the necessary skills or experience? So then you need to consider some training, maybe volunteering outside their work to build up those skills, or maybe something if you're in the job at the moment in your current role that you can do to build up those skills. If there's not a skills gap and there's nothing wrong with your CV or interview technique, then maybe it is time to reassess your career goals. So going back to that diagram with the 3 circles, when we talked about finding that sweet spot, it could be that the job market is just not as buoyant as you'd like it to be for the jobs you're going for. It could be that they're few and far between, particularly in the location in which you're searching. It could be that actually there's a lot of demand for those types of roles. You've got 2 choices here, really. You can hold on and keep going for it if you're in a position to do that, or you might want to look at different jobs or different roles or different industries. So really just going back to that. So that is a case, and you do decide to reassess your career goals and change them, then it's a case of, tweaking your CV and interview technique as necessary. Okay, so that's it from me. But just before I go, I'd like to do a quick poll. We'd like to know from you what you'd like us to do future webinars on. So we've got a few ideas here on screen. We think of doing one on mature job seekers and advice for them. One on school leaders or younger job seekers, so graduates as well. How about one on career shifting, so looking to change careers, or perhaps one on returning to work, so you might have taken a career break or been traveling and now looking to get back into work, or none of the above. Just let us know in the text box ideas for webinars or people you'd like to hear from. Okay, that's it from me. I'm now going to hand over to Tricia from the Daily Mirror, who's going to do your live Q&A. If we don't have a chance to answer all your questions today, fear not, we will get back to you via email or if you've given us your Twitter handle over Twitter. But that's it from me, and thank you very much. So over to Tricia.
Thanks, Charlotte. That was absolutely brilliant. Lots of excellent stuff, tips, advice, which hopefully is going to inspire a lot of people and help them with their New Year job search. Hi, everyone. I'm Tricia Phillips. I'm the careers editor at the Daily Mirror newspaper. I write a weekly Mirror Jobs column. It's all about helping people to find work. I'm passionate about helping people. I know it's tough out there at the moment. Even though there's supposed to be more jobs around, it's still quite tough to find them and get them. Make sure you check out the job section every Thursday, as well as listening to these webinars from Fish for Jobs. I'm here to answer your questions and help you with your individual concerns and dilemmas on your job search. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us. Firstly, I'm going to say hello to Stephen, who's sent a note to us saying he wants to resign from his current job. He's actually wondering how he should do it, whether he should write a letter or email. Firstly, Stephen, congratulations. I hope you're going to do a fab new job. I'd recommend that you should really resign in person if you can. I'd pop in your boss's office, have a quick chat to them. You really want to leave on good terms if you can, just in case you want to venture back and you want to get a decent reference. If that's not possible, then I would hand over a typed or handwritten letter so that you know it's definitely been received. Emails can sometimes be a bit unreliable. I know that I get huge numbers of important ones that I should be getting. I don't get them every day, and people keep ringing me up and they have to resend them or I have to dig them out of my quarantine. So I would do that. If you need a bit of help on a resignation letter, there's a template on Fish for Jobs in the careers advice bit, so that'll help us all put it together. Hi to Martin. He's wondering if he should always go to interviews in a suit and a tie, especially if he's applying for jobs at, say, a creative agency. Ooh, tricky one, this one, Martin. Many workplaces now are a lot less formal than they used to be, especially, as you say, young and creative firms. The basic rule for interviews is that you need to be smart, clean, and well-presented. Suited and booted, probably best if you're going for a professional job, say in a bank, an insurance broker, something in legal. But dressing more formally for any other job won't mean that you get binned, but if you're too casual, that could sort of backfire on you, and it could mean that you do get binned. If interviewers could think, if you've got a bit of a sloppy look, that your work's going to be a bit sloppy too. I'd say do a little bit of research on the industry, the company, see what the workers actually wear. And definite no-nos are things like ripped jeans, dirty trainers, scruffy clothing with buttons missing, things like that. They are never going to help you land a job. So it's almost a bit of research, and then you can see where you think you stand for that interview. But definitely err on the side of smart rather than too casual. Heather wants to know what I think about video CVs and whether they're effective. Heather, it depends on the job you're applying for, whether it's going to enhance your application or it might just hinder the process and turn off the firm you're applying to if it sort of holds them up and they've got a lot of people to get through. If a firm asks for it, I would say you've definitely then got to send one. Certain industries such as theatre, the arts, if you're doing promotional work, could help you to stand out, but make sure the quality is good if you are going to do one and send one off. Albert wants to know, he wants to work in sales, but at the moment he's got just customer service experience, and he wants to know how he should word this on his CV. Albert, customer service is a great skill to have when it comes to sales. It's part of the skill set that you need for sales. You need to show the crossover between the two jobs. You've probably been selling more than you already think. I don't know what type of customer service roles you've had, but a lot of people, even when they're on the phone doing customer service, are actually doing a bit of a sales job at the same time. You need to look at the job advert, work out what you've done that matches what they're looking for, and make sure you spell out on the CV that you are the right person for the job. Glenn says he's struggling to keep up during his search for work, and he wonders if we've got any tips. Well, as Charlotte just said, this is tough. I know it's really hard out there, and it might seem like you're on a bit of a production line when you're sending off applications for jobs. Basics, you need to treat each job as the first one, as if you're applying for your very first job. Nice, fresh approach, and totally believe that you're the right person for that job. A lot of passion, determination reflect in your cover letter and CV, and that's how you're going to shine when you're applying for them. And if you're a bit downbeat, your applications might seem a bit flat. So, try and go for a little walk, smile at yourself, think happy thoughts, and go for it. Just to remind everybody, don't forget, there's loads of resources on the Fish for Jobs website. Go to fish4.co.uk/careers-advice. You'll find CV help, advice, templates, whatever you are, whether you're young, older, a graduate, or just you need some generic help with pulling together the CV. You can download them and they'll help you get on your way. You can also get some advice on how to write a good personal profile. That's one of the trickiest things for people. If you're heading for an interview, if you're looking to get an interview, then check out what the most common questions are that you're going to be asked or possibly asked, and also find out what the most common mistakes are so you can try and avoid them. You can also find out how to make social media work for you, because that can be a bit of a minefield at the moment and can put employers off. So definitely click on to all that advice, use it. It's there to be used. Hi to Lucas, who's wondering if he should ask for feedback after an interview or wait until they get back to him. It's definitely always best to get some sort of feedback so you can learn from it, and possibly if you don't get a job especially, you can find out what they didn't like, or possibly if you did anything wrong or anything that put them off, or possibly if you had any skills or any experience lacking, so you can actually go and do something about it. It is good to ask at the end, because it's good to ask a few questions and maybe just say how you got on. After an interview, if you just get a simple standard thanks but no thanks, then I'd say definitely go back to the interviewer or the agency and ask them for a bit more detail, because it's the only way you're going to move forward. And as we've said, it can be heartbreaking to keep applying for job after job and not get anywhere. Interesting one from Eve, who's told us that she's got told she slouched too much in a recent interview, but that everything else was good. And she's asking if it's really such a big deal. Well, Eve, yes, it is, because if it means you don't get the job, then it's a massive deal, and especially in this tough jobs market. Basically, slouching gives us the impression that you don't really care, you're not interested in the job. An interviewer is going to translate that as you're a bit lazy, you're unmotivated, and you won't care about the job either. So, sitting up straight, all those basics of sitting up straight, making eye contact, nice firm handshake, people give that advice out for a reason, because they are some of the really silly reasons why people don't get a job. It seems silly when you've got the right experience, you've got a great CV, and you are the person for the job, and then something really small lets you down. So, Eve, definitely it's a big deal, and I would say to anyone, try and sit up straight and be alert during interviews. Fiona is looking for a job abroad, possibly in the Middle East. She wants to know if jobs boards advertise foreign jobs. Yeah, they do, Fiona. Fish for Jobs do advertise opportunities overseas. If you're looking for a specific industry, you may need to sort of head to a more specialist site, but I don't know which industry you're looking for, so you'll need to do a little bit of research yourself to find that. Daniel says he's got experience in health and retail, but he wants to apply for jobs in each of them. He wants to know whether he needs to make 2 different CVs. Yes, yes, and yes. Firstly, so your CV's not confusing, but also you should create a new CV for every job you apply for and tailor it to that job. Daniel, you need to look at the skills, experience that they advertise for the job, and then reflect those on your CV. Spell out why you're the right person for a particular job, not just any job. If you start sending out a CV that talks about health, and you're applying for a job in the retail industry, they're going to think that they've got your CV in the wrong pile. So definitely have 2 separate CVs, but make sure you do tailor them as well and tweak them for each job. Rachel's got another CV question. She explains that she's worked for the same company for 30 years since she was 18. That's good going, Rachel. But she was recently made redundant, unfortunately. She has experience, but her CV still only seems to be about half a page long. She's wondering if that's an issue. Yes, Rachel, definitely an issue. It's going to look as if you've achieved nothing over the past 30 years. And I bet you've gathered enough experience, skills and expertise to probably write a book. CV should be ideally 2 pages long. You need to think about things like, have you moved roles within the company over the last 30 years, taken on new responsibilities, gained any new professional qualifications, have you trained others? As I said to Daniel, you need to look at the job advert and tell the firm via your CV why you are the right person for the job. Look at the detail, mirror that on your CV, spell out how brilliant you are with examples that back up your skills and experience. You're going to have a lot of that. You're just going to have to look a little bit deeper into what you've done, possibly break the job down, but make sure you keep it sort of to the most recent things that you've achieved, and any qualifications or anything you've got, make sure you let them know that you've got the latest qualifications and that you are up to speed with the industry. Tracy wants to work for a Premier League football team, and she wants to know how she should go about landing a job there. Should she go via their website or the job board? Firstly, Tracy, I'd go to their website, see if they've got any jobs advertised there, and find out how they'd like you to apply. It's also worth signing up for specific job alerts on Fish for Jobs. And maybe, as you've got a specific area in mind and a specific team, I don't know whether it's a team or just any team, it might be worth just sending them a letter and to their PR people, letting them know that you really want to work for them, and showing them the passion, skills and expertise you could bring to their club. Just a reminder, everyone, don't forget there's loads of resources on the Fish for Jobs website. Make sure you go on fish4.co.uk/careers-advice, and you'll find templates, advice, tips, all the things you need to make sure that you apply for the jobs the right way and with the best chance of getting them. Hi to Roxanne. She wants to know how to email her CV for work placements. That's a simple one, Roxanne. You just need to go to a company's website and go to the Contact Us page and get your CV off to them. Just make sure you make it a little bit relevant to each company that you're applying to. Let them know why you want to go and work for them and that you are interested in that area. Do a little bit of background research first as well. I've got Evelyn and Trevor who are asking about age-related issues. Evelyn's asking how she can account for jobs she did more than 15 years ago. She's wondering whether she should show them all on her CV or leave them off. Basically, there's a word that I use a lot. Evelyn, it's relevance. You need, when you're sort of over a certain age, you don't want to give that away and be put on the reject pile before you've had the chance to get an interview and shine and show them that you are wonderful. Try and avoid anything that gives your age away. It's sort of usual to go back around 10 years on your CV, unless a job is totally relevant to the one you're applying for. You need to make your CV sound very current, not like you're talking about things that happened 20 years ago. You need to make people know that, an employer know that you're up to date with everything, that your experience, you've got experience in today's workplace, skills are up to date. if, say, you're going back to a former career, then it would probably be worth including something from the past and the jobs and experience you gained then, because obviously that would show that you are applying in the right area. Jabba Ali wants to know how to make a CV stand out from the crowd. Ooh, this is the $64 million question, this one. But there are things that you can do to help stay on the yes pile rather than be binned on the reject pile. Firstly, make sure it's not too long. As I said earlier on, it's 2 pages maximum. You've literally got seconds to grab the attention of whoever's reading your CV. So, and you are probably up against quite a lot of other people, so you need to make sure that your personal profile actually tells this person who's reading your CV something. It just isn't full of cliches and meaningless words. Spell out why you're the right person for this job with a little introduction to you, your skills, any experience you've got. Match your skills with the job advert. And, of course, make sure you double-check your spelling and grammar, because really they are no-nos and you are going to get binned if you have anything like that that's wrong on your CV. They are very, very basic, and that is given a poor impression of yourself. Asia, hopefully I've pronounced that right, or Asia, I'm not sure, wants to know what we think about creative CVs with pictures, logos, etc. This one depends on the industry you're in. If it's a media creative firm you're applying to, you might want to show a bit more of your creative side, but the basics still apply, that you should make it easy to read and follow with information the reader needs to decide whether to bring you in for an interview or not. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote a feature on the Mirror Jobs pages about a girl who baked an apple pie. Well, actually, she baked several of them over a weekend till she got it absolutely perfectly right, and she delivered to a fun, creative young firm. And she reckons that was what helped her stand out from the crowd, and she got the job. You need to think about what the job is, what they're looking for, and try and replicate some of that in your CV. It's this thing I keep harping on about. I'm sure people are bored hearing it now. It's make it relevant to the job, and make sure that it's standing out for the right reasons, not the wrong ones. Gary wants to know if there's any benefit to using websites such as LinkedIn. Yes, there is, Gary. Recruiters use LinkedIn to search for potential candidates, and they often contact people via the site. But what you need to do is make sure that your profile is updated. Try and join some groups, link up with others in your chosen industry so you can build up a good professional network and make it look like you know your stuff and you are very interested in the industry. Lynn and Fiona are both saying that they've applied for loads of jobs and they rarely get any feedback. They're both getting pretty disillusioned. Sorry, girls, it is quite hard out there, but the problem at the moment is that just the sheer quantity of job applications and the lack of manpower at many firms means that, this is happening pretty frequently. It's really not acceptable, but at the moment it's a fact of life in the current jobs market. What you need to do is follow up. First of all, ensure that they've got your application and ask for some feedback. I know it's difficult to keep going, but you will find that job with a bit of perseverance. You will get it, and it'll be worth waiting for. And also, it's worth taking a quick look at your CV. If you're not getting interviews, then it may need a tweak here and there. Maybe try changing things, create a new one that's relevant for each job, make sure that it is relevant. Just a reminder, don't forget all the resources on the Fish4 website. Just keep plugging this in case you missed me earlier on. Anne's got in touch. She's had 2 jobs recently where she was let go due to personality clashes with the owners. She wants to know how best to get around this when she's asked at interviews for the reason for leaving her jobs. Best not to mention it, Anne. Definitely. I would go along the lines of say that the job wasn't what it was advertised to be. You didn't find it fulfilling. You want a bigger challenge. I'd use those sort of words. Don't ever get into sort of a bit of a slagging match against an ex-boss or, diss anybody at an interview. It's not the best way to go forward. Oh, and just to let everybody know that the webinar will be available to download after it's taken place. It'll probably be sometime in the next few days. Just keep an eye on the homepage at Fish for Jobs, and we'll let you know when it's available. Farrell has graduated with an accounting and finance degree in May, but recent work experience he's had has been in database, and he wants to know how to get the job he wants in accounting and finance. Basically, Farrell, get your degree high up on your CV. Make sure you spell out in your personal profile that you are looking for a job in accountancy and finance. use that work experience that you've had in database to show that you've done some real work, you've been in a real workplace, spell out the transferable skills and bits that you've picked up while you've been there that are going to help you in your future job in finance, things like working competently on computers, collating, accuracy, your attention to detail. All of those things are going to be important in the accountancy and finance world too. Just take a good look at what you've done and work out what you can then put on your CV to make it really relevant and show that, this is the area you want to go into. Daniel is saying that he got a third class from his first degree he took, but then he went on and got a master's from a top university. He wants to know how he can focus on the latter as opposed to the former. Well done on your master's, Daniel. But basically, you don't need to put the grade when you're talking about your degrees and things. Just put a BA or BSc next to the entry on your CV. Joanne says that she was at school a long time ago, same as me, Joanne, and she wondered if it's okay to just list exams passed and use the space, more for skills and employment. Basically, I would keep your education details very basic, Joanne, and certainly don't list the dates. A lot of employers will ask for at least C in English and Maths at O-level or GCSE. What you should focus on more is your experience, your ability to do the job, the fact that you're ready to go, and you don't need a sort of training. Spell out, the achievements you've made, and, basically blow your trumpet about how great you are. Amy asked if I'd recommend contacting and speaking to someone on the phone or email to speak about a job, as it might mean they're more likely to remember her name when they're looking through CVs. Amy, you probably won't be able to get through to someone direct. Most firms either use agencies for their recruitment and get them to shortlist, or they've just got a generic email. It might have a person's name on it, but there probably isn't just one person sat there going through it and answering emails. It may work against you, this, because it may put you on their radar as a bit of a pest, basically, before they've even seen your skills and your talent on your CV. A better thing to do would be make sure that your CV stands out, gets you to the top of the yes pile from all the different bits of advice we've given you and the advice you'll find on the website. Kit wants to know if you have to list all your responsibilities and all the jobs you have on your CV for the whole of your working life. Basically, Annick, it's that relevance word again. You only need to include what is relevant to the role you're applying for. Must be in reverse chronological order with the most recent first, and you work back. But you need to make sure that you don't leave any gaps. Put the most information in about the jobs that you've had that are relevant to the jobs that you're applying for. Keep the other ones to a minimum. As I said earlier, you need to really go back about 10 years, or your CV could look a bit dated and irrelevant. And you could reveal your age if you're a slightly older person by going back too far. Just a reminder that the webinar will be available after this. We'll put a note on the Fish4 homepage just to let you know when you could download it. And don't forget, there's loads more advice on the website: CV, templates, advice, cover letters, all sorts, how to write a personal profile, interview help, and tips about using social media and making it work for you. Hi, Simone. She wants to know if you need to include a cover letter when filling in an online application form. Simone, yes. As Charlotte said in her presentation, a lot of people don't include cover letters, so this could help to make you stand out. It also means you can add out anything extra that they haven't asked on your application that you think might make them just, pick you rather than somebody else to go in for an interview. Kevin wants to know if it's worth paying somebody to write your CV. Ooh, tricky one, Kevin. It could be, but a lot of the firms who do this charge hundreds of pounds, and you have to work out whether you can afford that in the first place. Some do a really good job, others not so great. The problem is trying to find the one that's right and the one that will create a killer CV for you. You don't really need to do that because you can do it yourself. As I keep saying, we've got loads of tips and advice on the website. Read my jobs pages every week, where I often give advice about write the CV. You don't need to do that much yourself except fill in all the information. So have a go yourself, see if it works. If you get some reviews, then you know it's working. If not, then possibly go down the route of paying somebody. But just be wary how much they're charging you and what they're going to actually give you for that. Cynthia is working on working in the EFL teaching field. She's a French native, but she's near native English. She wants to know how to make herself more desirable in this field on a CV. Well done, Cynthia. Good news is that you're going to be in demand. There's lots of jobs in the UK from customer service roles, jobs in legal firms, sales jobs that are crying out for people who've got several languages. What you need to do is make sure you spell out that you are multilingual in your personal statement. Susan, hello. She's leaving her current job due to ill health. Sorry to hear that, Susan. And you want to know whether you have to state why you left your job when you're applying for new ones. It's best to be really honest, because something might come back and bite you at a later date if you do sort of lie and or a bit lenient with the truth, Susan. So, and basically a lot of employers will understand that, time taken off due to ill health is not a bad thing, and what you need to do is then reassure them that you're fit, raring to go, and you're now ready for work and a new challenge. Dennis wants to know how to tailor a CV when applying for a role in a new sector, possibly what keywords he should include in the profile statement. Well, Dennis, this will depend on the sector that you're going into. You need to really read the job specification carefully, tailor your CV to match that. You'll get the keywords from the job specification, find out what they're looking for, pick out past experience that you've had that crosses over into a new role, include any work experience, placements, volunteering that you've possibly done during studying, and basically you've just got to show that you can do this job and that you've got the right attitude and attributes to do it. Tina is looking for a new job while still working for a current employer. She wants to know if she has to put references on her CV. No, you don't, Tina. You don't need to put contact details. In fact, really for data protection, you shouldn't give out other people's personal information. So all you need to do is simply put on the end of your CV references available on request, and then you can give them out possibly after you've been for a CV or if they ask for them in between time. Marie wants to know how short a personal statement should be. Probably it needs to be a short paragraph, probably 4 to 5 lines or so, very top of your CV, just a summary of why you're the right person for the job, listing your skills and any experience you've got, and also make sure you spell out at the top what job you're looking for and what sector you want to be in. You'd be surprised at how many CVs we see where there is no mention of any sector, any industry, and we're left guessing, and employers are left guessing what sort of industry this person wants to work in. Anthony has been self-employed for a few years. He's had contracts, but they haven't been back-to-back, so there's been a few gaps. He wants to know if he should put his company as his employer and put the contracts as projects. Great idea, Anthony. It'll be a good way of ordering it on your CV, and in theory you have employed yourself, so that is a good way to do it. Just a reminder again that we've got loads of resources on the Fish4 website. Make sure you use them. They will help you pull together a really good CV. They'll give you some good tips and guidance if you're heading off for an interview. And also make sure you go through the social media bit, because it will help. There's a lot of mistakes that people make in that area, so you need to avoid those at all cost. Just bear in mind, 80% of employers head straight onto Facebook and Twitter accounts to check out people before they even look at their CV properly and decide to bring them in for an interview. So just check out what's on there to make sure that you've got no silly pictures or anything else or irrelevant posts. Evelyn wants to know how to use LinkedIn when she's applying for different roles. Basically, even you can search for jobs on LinkedIn. It's just like jobs boards such as Fish4. Make sure basically you keep your profile up to date. Don't make it look like it's something you've left neglected, dusty on a shelf. Employers search for candidates on LinkedIn, so you need to make sure that what they see is basically it's something that's relevant and up to date. Bill wants to know how he can disguise his age, and he's been with the same firm for the last 20 years. Bill, 20 years isn't that long, actually. That's good. What you don't need to disguise it. You need to think of the 20 years as good, solid experience rather than a hindrance. Spell out that you're raring to go and you won't need training or hand-holding like younger applicants will. Show that you're up to date with the latest technology. Focus on recent experience and achievements. Make sure that you focus on this sort of the last couple of years rather than the 20 years ago, although you can say that you've got that good experience. People do value that, so don't let that put you off. Use it to your advantage. Kevin wants to know why we use a chronological format on CVs. It's to give them some sort of order, but it's not an absolute rule. But when you send out your CV, you do want the best chance of landing an interview, so you need to make it simple, straightforward, so that when the recruiter's reading it, they can see you're the right person for the job and everything's written down logically. It makes you seem like a bit of a logical person as well. If you didn't do it that way, it could end up a bit of a jumbled mess and would probably definitely end up on the reject pile. Amy wants to know if we've got any templates she can use for adapting the formatting of her CV. Yes, and yes, Amy. We've got loads of CV templates, whatever your age, older, younger, graduates, and generic ones to suit all needs, circumstances. If you look below the webinar on the website, you can find links to them. Bosnia, I think, is the name, wants to know what sort of CVs employers prefer. Basically, maximum of 2 pages, because usually they've got quite a lot to get through. As I've said a few times, making it relevant. You don't need to tell your life story. And just the basic rule is longer ones end up in the reject pile. Nice, simple formatting. Use a font that's easy to read. All of those things will help you out. Sarah was asking us, sorry, I've just answered this, but I'll answer your question, Sarah. She wants to know if the webinar is available to download. Yes, it will be available on the Fish for Jobs homepage in the next few days. Keep an eye out. We'll post it probably towards the end of the week. Maxine is asking, how many previous jobs should you have on your CV? Maxine, that one's going to depend on how old you are and how many jobs you've actually had. But older workers probably need to only go back around 10 years, as I've said. The main thing, keep it relevant, make sure you only include stuff that shows that you're the right person for the job that you're applying for. If you've got lots and lots of jobs, and if you've got work experience that isn't relevant to the job that you're applying for, keep them off. But as I said earlier, don't leave any gaps, otherwise employers are going to wonder what you're up to. So keep the reverse chronological order. Just keep things that are not relevant to a minimum. Sean has been out of work. He's out of work, and he's 43, and he's looking he needs a new challenge. He's not sure where to start looking. He wants to sell mortgages, but he's applied for jobs and he's finding that his age is holding him back. Unfortunately, Sean, there are employees out there who are ageist. Maybe you could look at jobs at a slightly higher level, and show them that you've got lots of experience and skills that mean you'll get up to speed quickly. Possibly you could do some training to get you up to the next level, and try and maybe get some work experience, shadow someone, do a bit of voluntary work, just in the right area, just so that you can show that you are the right person for the job. I suppose it's just trying to stand out. 43 isn't old, by the way, and also just make sure that you're not putting this on your CV. Just keep your age off there so that you've got a chance of landing some interviews. Quentin is a graduate with an MSc and says that employers are asking for experience, but he doesn't have any. Basically, this is a problem, a catch-22 for a lot of grads. What you need to do is try and get that experience, possibly through a free internship or some sort of placement. There's quite a lot of those around. If you look on some of the grad specialist sites, you'll find that there's lots listed there. The government have got a big campaign to try and help people. Maybe try and do some voluntary work as well. That would get you some experience, something you can put on your CV, and you could be looking for jobs as well at the same time. So it shows you've got a bit of nous, that you've got the the nous to actually get your foot in the door somewhere. And also maybe use LinkedIn and contact employers directly. They'll contact you as well via there. Manny wants to know how to construct a good job supporting statement. Basically, Manny, you need to include facts and figures to wow potential employers. An example of a good bit of work that you did. Say you exceeded a sales target. You brought in so much cash. The fact that you maybe saved the company some money, but just spell it out with a little example of something you actually did, so that when you go to interview as well, you can actually chat about it and it's something real. Charlene wants to know She wants to change careers to a new industry, and she wants to know how to go about it. Basically, Sean, you need to find out whether you need any extra training or any extra qualifications, first of all, to get into that industry. I don't know how old you are. It possibly might be that if you're under 24, you could get an apprenticeship so you could train, earn and learn. Maybe do some volunteering so you can try out some new industries if you don't know which one you want to go into. Look for placements, work experience, just any way to get your foot in the door so that you can go in there, wow them in, and hopefully if there are jobs, often people will consider people who are doing work experience for full-time jobs. Good way. I do lots of features showing how people have got jobs actually through work experience. It does work. Julie wants to know what percentage of jobs are not advertised. As Charlotte said earlier, about 70% recruiters use things like Fish for Jobs database to search for CVs for candidates. Sometimes they actually don't want to cope with the demand of people applying for the job, so they actually go to people direct. Basically, so I would get your CV onto Fish for Jobs, and that could be the way you land your next job. Salongo would an honest answer be acceptable when they ask about salary, benefits, or why do you want this job? Although honesty doesn't always look great, it shows that you're it shows that you're upfront about the money that you want and stuff like that. Sorry, Salongo, I just lost my concentration for a second. Hazel's saying that she hasn't had a job for 9 months and she feels that this gap is affecting her chances of getting a job. Right, Hazel, 9 months isn't that long in this jobs market. There's going to be people who've been out of work for a lot longer than that. Basically, you just need to try and fill that bit of time. Possibly you might have done some refresher, you might have updated your qualifications. Have you done a bit of voluntary work? Have you done a bit of work experience anyway? Have you been caring for somebody at home? Have you been helping out somebody, a friend who's got a company or a business? Just fill that 9 months with something. And also you don't have to put exact dates like the 21st of January when you finished a job. You could, if you were paid for a couple of months after you finished your last job, you could stretch out that in theory you were working up until the time you were paid. So you might easily be able to lose 9 months or at least quite a chunk of that. Also, there's another Hazel actually who's returning to the UK after 15 years and wants to know how to convince employers to hire her. Basically, Hazel, your experience and your life skills, and often if you've been working abroad somewhere, people look on that as like a bit of an adventure, and the fact that you've got a bit of get up and go about you. So you basically just need to reassure employers that you're going to stay in the UK and that you're not going to suddenly jet off again, and that you're, this is where you're basically, you want to stay, and this is where you want to be for the foreseeable future. Basically, that's virtually as many questions as I can answer today, guys. I'm really sorry if I didn't get to your questions, but I hope that you found the webinar really useful. I hope it helps you bag your next job. Thank you for taking part. And just to remind you, you'll be able to download it and listen to it again if you missed anything or if you want to catch up on any extra bits. Just keep an eye on the Fish for homepage and in the next few days, and we'll put a link on there for you to click on it. Anyway, thanks and have a good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Tricia. That's great. As I mentioned, if we didn't get a chance to answer your question, we'll come back to you in email or Twitter. Thanks, everyone, for attending. We do have more careers advice on fishforjobs.co.uk/careers -advice, and do follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest jobs and career advice. Thank you and goodbye.